Well, welcome into Running It Straight here on SENZ, and for the first time, almost through the entire season, we don't have a Warriors game to preview, apart from the bye rounds. We didn't have any game to preview there, but we are officially done for the Warriors in 2023. Losing to Brisbane in that preliminary final over in Suncorp. We'll talk a lot about that very, very shortly, Kempy and I. And then we'll also have a look at the Dally M's tonight. We're going to give out our own end-of-season awards to the Warriors, just cast our eye back over the 2023 season and some highlights and where the team will head maybe in 2024. And then out towards the back of the hour, we will talk about the grand final this weekend between Brisbane and Penrith. As always, you can text on 8833. You can drop a comment on our YouTube channel. I see there's already one there that says Up the Pars. Kempy, so we're on the Up the Bras. Are you up the Bras, are you?
Up the Bras? No, I'm up the Wars, mate. Oh, yeah.
Up the Bras or Up the Pars. We're up something, and we'll have a grand final to preview very, very shortly. But to kick off the show, I thought it was prudent of us, Kempy, given that we spent a couple of days in Brisbane, to maybe share a few tales from
yeah, we've obviously thought long and hard about
Brisbane.
that, hitting me with this one straight off the rip.
Yeah. Give a little background music for you.
You start. There you go. Bring us the first one. Don't worry, because I'll probably have about 10 more.
I know you got your phone out, you're scrolling up and down, so you've written it all out as well. You got an essay. Well, look, it started in Auckland on Friday, where we had a 6 a.m. flight over to
and you showed up
Sydney.
at 1:30.
I showed up on time, Kempy, and there was no Uber, and I'm going to put that on you. The poor guy who ended up picking us up copped an earful from Kempy for the pre-ordered Uber that didn't show up. But we got to the airport, and it took a long time to get through customs. It took a heck of a long time to get through customs. The lines were very long, and when we did finally get to the front of the queue, I was pulled aside. The old bag went up on the carousel, moved to the side.
Just got one of those faces.
Got ushered, yeah. The blue gloves came on. I thought, jeepers, where are those going? And they opened up my bag, and I was thinking, I read all the... Because, you're going to tell everyone about how nervous of a traveller I am. So I obviously read all the rules and everything, Kempy. I packed everything, thought I'd ticked all the boxes.
You are a conscientious traveller.
But they pulled out my toothpaste, and they were like, yeah, look, this is 110 mils, and it's got to be 100. And I was like, well, mate, I'm going to walk 20 metres forward and buy a block of toothpaste from the duty free. So what's the difference? And he said, no, it's 110, even though there was hardly any toothpaste. So he's like, can't you have that? Took away my moisturiser as well, which is a very expensive moisturiser.
I know, you let me know that all the way to Brisbane.
I did, yeah. So that was the intro to the travel over to Sydney. And then we arrived in Sydney, a big 9-hour layover, so we went and grabbed some food.
10, because the plane was delayed.
That's right, the plane was delayed. And we went to a beautiful, the Grounds Cafe, which is a beautiful little cafe there.
Yeah, showed you a little bit of Sydney. If you ever go to Sydney and you're stuck in an airport, head to the Grounds.
Yeah, it was the Grounds, Alexandria. And we got kicked out after an hour. We wanted to park up there for the whole afternoon. They said, no, you got to go after an hour. So we went across the road, got ourselves a poke. We had a lot of food. And then we just parked up in the airport, got to Brisbane, and in the Uber... And we arrived in Brisbane, and in the Uber ride from the airport to the hotel, we nearly came to blows because we were that tired and we were just over it at that point.
And I'll pick up this one. So we're sitting there and we're driving to the hotel in Brisbane, and it's all about, like, how far is Brisbane? Where are we going? Like, what are we doing tomorrow? And it was that type of conversation, and all of a sudden my good mate Sammy Hewat had enough. He absolutely had enough. So when you're travelling with your kids and they're in the back car, you just like, go to sleep, lie down and go to sleep. I ended up saying to him, end of conversation, that's it. You need to go to bed.
I can't stress, I can't tell you what we talked about, but it nearly did come to blows, and it ended up with us just both laughing because we were just like, we're just so tired. We just need to get out of here. So we got to our hotel. Now this is funny, Kempy, because we were in different hotels, and your one, when I Googled both of them, your one did look a lot more plush than mine. Little did we know, you had the whole bloody upper floor. You had the apartment suite with the hot tub.
I didn't make the most of it either. So I only had it for that one night.
Yeah, but you tell us about what you woke up to on Saturday morning.
Yeah, so I got there, and anyway, we got GrainCorp, who's a fantastic sponsor of SENZ, and they come over. So they helped us to get to Brisbane, and I want to thank Ange and GrainCorp for doing that for us. And I sort of knew what Saturday was going to entail, and I didn't want you to get stuck in it because I know how conscientious you are, is the word I'm going to use. So I took it upon myself on the way on the trip back in the Uber to text Ange and her crew and say, hey, do you guys want to catch up and we have a chat and let you know what's going on for the weekend? And so if we're coming to blows in the Uber to get to the accommodation because we're so tired, well, I didn't even go to bed. I ended up going out till 2 o'clock in the morning and just to talk, and had a couple of glasses of wine with the group and do the sponsors thing. So when I wake up in the morning, I can't even remember getting back to the bedroom. Like, I was that tired. I had a shower. When I wake up in the morning, there's a trail of my clothes to the shower and the towels to the bed and in the bed. I woke up in the morning because Sammy Hewat's on the blower at 7:30.
Yeah, well, you said ring any time. You said you'd be up.
And what did I do? I didn't mind, did I? I just got out of bed.
Well, you hung up first and then you called me back.
And then I went straight to Suncorp Stadium. So, yeah, the first day...
No, hold on. You not got woken up, but you came out of the shower in the morning with your towel wrapped around you, and the guy was knocking at the door for cleaning, and you said, yeah, come on in, and he came in and he said to you, mate, what are you doing? You're supposed to be out of here. And you were like, and you were already, on edge with the extra travel, and we didn't find out our accommodation until very, very late in the piece. So he's telling you got to get out of there. And I would be surprised if you weren't about to throw blows at him, Kempy. But
I didn't tell you what I said to him.
Yeah.
But I just, when he left the room, I went and phoned up reception and I said, hi, I've got a booking here. I'm meant to be leaving tomorrow. And they said, well, we're actually really full, and that's why you're in this. And the room I was in was the penthouse. And,
so you had the top floor.
It was booked out, so I got given this room because there was no other rooms. Yeah. And they said, we've actually got you in your normal room, which was a box.
So all the gloating that you did the day before to me about come back to my room, mate. I got everything. I got the spa.
I was saying to Sammy, like, get up here, mate. Like, the room's perfect. Bring your gear over, have a shower. There's a bath, and just relax. Got TVs everywhere. Blah blah blah. And then you phone, I'm going to come over. Oh yeah, no, mate, I'm in a box.
Totally
kicked me out.
Just rethink that. So anyway, yeah. So we got it sorted. And look, Saturday was a fantastic day. We went to Suncorp first thing, and did some video stuff out there. You caught up with a TV crew, Channel 9, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, first experience for me outside of Suncorp and in and around Brisbane area. Went out, took a walk down the Caxton as well. It's a fantastic city, Brisbane, by the way. It's one of my new faves.
So close to Melbourne these days. Yeah. Like, I lived there when I played for the Crushers back in, what was that, 98, I think, 95, 96 it was, because John Curran was playing for the Warriors then. And it was nothing like what it is today, Sammy. Like, and I've been back there a couple of times, obviously, but been down on South Bank and just seen the way that they've developed that city. It's a wonderful city. I said to a mate today when he said, how was it? I said, mate, it's really close to looking like Melbourne. Yeah. It is really cool. That waterway, South Bank, all that walkway.
Yeah.
And this, of course, the stadium, which is, the whole thing, like, for Sammy Hewat to experience that trip to Brisbane and Suncorp Stadium, and I know it was a highlight for you, Sammy, was for me, the highlight of the whole trip was when we first walked into the stadium, when we were setting up. And when you walked up, you put your box down and then you look back out the window and you started to realise, man, this place is going to be full because it is like, it's aspirational, isn't it? Yeah. Like, if we're in Auckland, I always sit here and I think, man, that's what we need.
Yeah, 100%.
52,000 people, totally. Seated stadium on the waterfront, and you can imagine people like first-time experience going, oh, how fantastic.
And it is. Like, that's probably my, I guess, naivety of not being to a lot of stadiums outside of New Zealand. But yeah, that Suncorp just blew me away, Kempy. And like, we were right up the top in our commentary box, and it felt like we were 20 metres away from the field. We're at the top row, and it felt like we were still on top of the players. And that's what it felt like when the crowds got in. Everyone's just close. It's tightly packed. It's like a Premier League stadium. And because of that, the shape of it, everything sort of reverberates. So even though there wasn't a heap of Warriors fans, like there wasn't 50,000, but you could hear the chants because it just reverberated.
Well, we tried to open the window up, didn't we?
Yeah.
We tried to open the window up in commentary, and we're talking to Robbie back here in the box, in the production box, to say, mate, what's it like? He said, close the window, it's too loud. Like, How often does that happen?
No, and it was an incredible. It's so efficient too. Those stadiums around Aussie. You know, the public transport comes in and out really easily. People just are able to clear out. I noticed in the concourse there were no lines for food and drink. It was all very, very well done. And then of course we went to the Caxton on the way through, and that was awesome. There was a pub taken over by Warriors fans. Plenty of Brisbane fans out. You
got a mini Origin experience. That's what
happened. But you did mention that you go down there in Origin. It's 10
crazy.
times as crazy. But it still was an awesome experience going down there. And I said to Kempy, mate, well, let's get some food, before we get to the stadium. We won't get hungry. We're on here till 11 o'clock. There's kebabs here, there's pizza. And you said, no, let's go to this place across the road. Everyone's wearing suits and ties and everything. We're dressed in, our SENZ clothes.
I was just telling the boys a story out there. Now, to give you some context here, like, we haven't eaten all day. We've had a breakfast and then we've worked all day. A couple of smoothies, and we've worked all day, and we're doing socials and videoing and going to pubs and meeting the fans and all this sort of stuff. So we got to be at the ground at 6:30, and it's like 5:45. And Sammy goes, let's get something to eat. There's a kebab joint right there. And I'm going, hell no. I am not having a kebab.
What's wrong with a kebab?
And we walk into the restaurant, and the lady says, have you got a booking? We said, no, we haven't. And they go, well, you can't come in here because it's booked out, obviously, because it's sold out.
Yeah.
But you maybe try across the road. I actually thought it was a pub. So we walked to the door of the pub across the road, but it wasn't. It was a fine dining restaurant.
Fine dining of the highest degree. Like, the guy met us with a towel wrapped around his forearm, and
he was the owner.
Can I take your order, sir?
And he saw us walking across, and he probably recognised Sammy Hewat, and he says, and he goes, got a booking? And we went, no. And he goes, right. And we went up and he sorted the seat out and all that sort of stuff, and gave us a table for two. And Sammy's sitting here and going, what are you having? And I went, well, I'm having a steak. I'm hungry. He's going, looking at the prices on the menu and goes,
the steak was $75, Kempy. Kempy picked the most expensive establishment in Brisbane, $75 steaks, couple of drinks and some chips. By the time we left, Kempy, we'd spent over $200, and we were only in there for about 20 minutes because we were in a rush.
Were you hungry?
Oh, mate, it was one of the best steaks I've ever had. I'm very grateful.
I think it's a small price to pay for the amount of effort that you put in. But not only that, it was the only place that wasn't selling kebabs.
Yeah, I know. You were just very anti-kebab. But the steak was very nice, and the chips were nice too. But then... look, and then we won't talk about Sunday and the travel back, because that was equally another long day, cramped up on that small plane with a 3-year-old behind us that wouldn't shut up.
And I got to sit next to the Joker.
Yeah, you got to sit next to the Joker, which was good for you.
Well, that's a funny story in itself. So walking down, and Sammy's at that I need to sleep stage again when we're at Brisbane Airport, and I'm talking to the Grain Corp guys again, and doing the right thing by just being a conversationalist and enjoying myself because we're away in Brisbane. And I decided Sammy's gone, but I decided to walk back to the plane. And next minute, this guy just walks over and says, hey, Kempy, like this, and we're talking. I don't know if I've told you this one, Sammy.
No, you didn't.
We're talking, we get on the plane, and I'm looking at him. He's going, what do you think of the game? And it was unlucky, just weren't up to it last night, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, Kempy, it's me. And I'm like, who? Well, he's got no makeup on.
Yeah, no.
And he just goes, the Joker. And as soon as he said that, I saw him with the makeup on.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And I was like, oh, yeah, man, how you going like that? And anyway, get on the plane, and I beat him on the plane, and you wouldn't give up the middle. You wouldn't give up the window seat. I need
the window seat. It helps me fly.
If you're a big guy, you don't sit in the middle.
No, I get that,
but
it helps me fly.
At that stage, had enough. He wanted to get home. He got given the window seat. He wouldn't give it to me. He should have sat in the middle, because guess who I was sat next to? There's a Joker who's the same size as me.
That was a stitch up. You're two of the biggest guys on the plane.
Me and him were like shoulder to shoulder trying to...
Oh, watching you guys eat was hilarious. You literally
it was like Tyrannosaurus Rex eating.
It was. That's a great analogy. And watching TV, we had this kid behind us. He wouldn't shut up for the whole trip. Anyway, we ended up getting home at 1 a.m. Got back to the airport at 1 a.m. Basically got home at 2.
I got to tell that story. So we get out. So we get out of the airport. Sammy goes, I'm out. And I'm at the Uber. And we all know where international Uber is. If you're flying international, we all know. So I've ordered the Uber. It's 6 minutes away. And I've waited 5 minutes. So I've said, well, where are you? He goes, aren't you by the containers? And I'm like, mate, no, I'm up here by the Pullman, right outside the Novotel. And he's actually walked to domestic to go to the Uber.
Yeah.
And I've said, okay, he goes, mate, they've moved the Uber. And I said, no, Uber's always been here. He goes, well, it wasn't here 3 weeks ago. I said, well, where'd you go 3 weeks ago? He goes, Napier.
I said 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago. But the problem was you ordered the Uber before I'd even cleared customs, because I got held up once again coming back in. They thought I was trying to import radio gear to sell, but I was obviously just bringing it back here to SENZ. But it capped off a pretty wild weekend. Kempy, obviously not a lot of sleep, a lot of travel, but we had an absolute ball. Saturday was amazing.
It was a good trip.
I'll
travel with you again.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if you believe that, but also a great privilege to obviously bring you the commentary live from Suncorp to all our SENZ listeners, which was a fantastic experience. And just before we take a break, Kempy, we'll have a quick chat about what happened on Saturday night, because it was disappointing, for Warriors fans. Yes, it was a fantastic season regardless, and it was always going to be an uphill battle. But, with that 15-minute period before halftime where they scored 3 unanswered tries, every time they got the ball, they looked dangerous. Yet we were in it for maybe 10 or 15 minutes to start that second half. But Brisbane did sort of run away with it. And it felt like, despite all these refereeing decisions that we thought maybe went against us, it sort of felt like that was the right result, if you know what I mean.
Of course it was. They were a step above, and as we said the week before we went there, is we had to take another step above the Newcastle game, and we didn't get there from a player perspective on that same level that we were the week before. So, Brisbane came out. I was telling the boys out here just before. I said when Penrith played, they took it back into second gear and cruised through that second half. Brisbane, through the second quarter of that first half, moved into sixth gear and took off. And I mean, like, when we're watching it live, me and Sammy, and we're sitting there, and everyone at home would have been watching it too, we were ragged. We were holding on for dear life. And if you look at it and go back, and I watched it twice on the Sunday morning just to have another look at the game. We're very lucky that the score wasn't blown out.
Correct, yeah.
By a lot more. So I know the forward pass is a talking point. I've got to say, fantastic footage of you, Sammy, in the box.
I keep forgetting we're on camera. It gets to me. But
it was the right result given the fact that, for me, when I sat down after the game, I just went, well, everyone wanted Brisbane and Penrith, and not only that, but when you looked at Penrith and the way they dismantled Melbourne on the Friday night, and then the way that Brisbane did us to the Warriors, there is an actual gap between Penrith and Brisbane at the moment.
Yeah, there is. And two, we have the two best teams in the NRL playing in the grand final.
It's going to be a fantastic final.
It's going to be, and that is the consolation for Warriors fans. One quick point I want to bring up before we take the break, Kempy. Obviously, a lot of people made a big noise about the offloads, particularly in that first half from Brisbane, which really did kill us. It hit us on the back foot. It had us retreating at a rate of knots. It opened up space, and I know you talked with some people on Sunday about how the defensive structures can break apart when there's an offload, because all of a sudden you're sort of caught, not playing. You're playing ad-lib football. The Warriors have sat basically last in the NRL over the last 2 years for offloads. Is that a part of their game that they maybe need to improve or work on, or are you happy that they're more a team that isn't playing that sort of flashy style?
Well, it got them right to the end of the season, 82% in fourth position. So what they did worked, but when they came up against the Brisbane side, what they did would have worked if their defensive structure remained really solid. So it wasn't that the offloads are fine, and teams will offload on you, but you can't backtrack. That word that you said, they started to backtrack. When you're going back while the offload's coming, your defensive line gets thrown into all sorts of difficult defensive decisions. And that's what was happening, whereas they should have stayed right up and anticipated the offload and closed it down before they backtracked. They would have still lost the ruck, but they would have stuck together. And of course, when they got on a roll and it started to happen in that second quarter of the first half, it became just so easy because they started to backtrack quicker, which made it worse defensively for them. So, that's what I mean. Like, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. It wasn't the best defensive effort from our players on the offloads. And a lot of people, what they would have seen were offloads going back and breaks being made. But it was actually a defensive structure that was broken apart. And you've got to take your hat off to Brisbane. They got the confidence out of it. The reason why the offloads were sticking is because we weren't staying up.
No.
And half the time you teach that where players have to come up around the ball. So when Carrigan or Haas go to look to pass or whoever, that there's a warrior in between the players and they pull it back in and get down and you can wrestle them on the ground. But unfortunately it didn't go that way. I'm pretty sure they'll put that in the memory banks for next year. And on your offloads, well, it is a part of the game that we naturally got. as far as New Zealanders go, and it's part of the identity of the Warriors. So maybe next year that is part of the shrug, the pullback, the off-road, and the second phase play, because it certainly killed us on Saturday night.
100%. All right, we'll take a break here on Running It Straight. When we come back, we're going to hand out our end-of-season awards. This might run a little bit over news as well. You can text through your thoughts. I'll give them out to you now so that you can have a little think about them. We will do the best moment of the season, the best game, the best forward, the best back, the MVP, of course, most improved, the biggest surprise, and the player with the most exciting potential moving forward. So someone that got better and maybe got a debut, and we thought, hey, this is a player that's really going to stand out in years to come. So have a think about those awards. You can text them on 8833. You can comment on the YouTube as well. We'll take a short break. Come with that after this. Welcome back into Running It Straight. Doing our end of year Warriors review. We will still have a Running It Straight next Wednesday, by the way, to wrap the grand final and the NRL season. But we'll do our Warriors end of season review and give out a few awards as well. So you can chime in on 8833 or you can jump on the YouTube stream and throw a comment in there. Go through a couple of these now before we hit the news, Kempy. First one is the best moment, your favourite moment of the 2023 season for the Warriors.
I'm going to have to say the Cronulla game.
Yeah, the comeback.
The comeback, like what that was on the cusp of here we go again season. Mm-hmm. You know, when they went out to such a big lead in the first half, and how the hell are they going to get back in this? And then to win it the way that they did was like, oh man, that was pretty special. Yeah. And then after that, it was like just kept getting better and better as the season went on. So I have to say that was a turning point. I think you're spot on in the fact that we as fans, you watch the first half and thought, oh, here we go again, Warriors. You know, this isn't going to get any better. But yeah, then we saw a completely new Warriors side, and they never looked back. So I'd agree with you on that one. So the Sharks game gets your best moment, but I've actually got best game. Maybe we'll change that to best performance. So what do you reckon was the best 80 minutes for the Warriors in 2023? Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle to get to the preliminary final. You know, Newcastle coming off 10 wins, knowing that you had to stop Ponga, just the way that I think best performance over 80 minutes for New Zealand. So the crowd came together, the weather played its part, the players played its part, the Netflix movie of SJ getting off and walking around and everything that came in with it. That has to be by far the best performance. Yeah, no, I'm sticking with you on that one. The best moment for me, even though I agree with you on the Sharks game, one that I really liked was actually the SJ field goal against the Raiders second time round, because even though we let them come back into the game, and you know we should never have let them score those 3 tries in the final 10 minutes, once again, I think the Warriors team in times gone by might have let that slip in Golden Point. And I remember the story Andrew Webster told of coming down to the field to talk with the players, and basically Sean and Tohu saying, mate, we don't need you. We got this. Don't worry. We've got this. And once again, I think that's a big shift mentality-wise and attitude-wise. And then obviously Sean to step up and hit the game-winning field goal. I thought that was a great moment. So, I'll put that one as my best moment. But I think you're right. Best performance definitely goes Newcastle in that elimination final. Okay, we've got to get some news, sport and weather out of the way. But when we come back, we'll have a look at the best forward, the best back. We've got our MVP, our most improved, our biggest surprise, and our most exciting potential moving forward. So we'll take a break for news, sport and weather, come back with more awards after that.
Welcome back into Running It Straight. We are going through our Warriors end of season awards. We will talk the Dally M's and we will talk about the grand final as well between now and 3 o'clock. You can keep texts coming in on 8833. Lots coming in on YouTube as well, which I will address. But let's get back to our awards. Firstly, Kempy, the best forward of 2023 for the Warriors.
Well, I'm going to split this because I'm going to give another award to the same guy. So I'm going to split this and say that
you can double up.
Addin Whenua-Blake was the best forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say one of the best forwards, but you've got to put him in close to the three best front rowers in the competition alongside Fisher Harris and Payne Haas, which is going to play out tonight. Does he get the Dally M for front row because I picked two tonight? So I'm going to give best forward to Addin Whenua-Blake.
Okay. The best back of 2023?
Best back, well, again, I'm going to have to split this. Yeah, but I'm going to give it to Chancellor Clockstart.
It's a good call.
Yeah. And just the effort and the comeback, and I think just the stability. You need a stable one, and I think he did that job, especially in that game against Kalen Ponga. That really summed up his year for me.
Who is your most improved of 2023?
My most improved is Shaun Johnson. Yeah, 100%. And I was calling, like Paul Gallen, for him to probably sit down and retire at the end of last year. And for him to come back and basically get himself organised and at 33 manage the game that he did this year, which is what Cameron Smith's talking about, and reinvent himself. I'm wishing that he was 23 because that's the Shaun Johnson that we've been chasing for decades.
It's quite funny when you think about most improved. A lot of people will go to rookies, and guys that, Rocco Berry's one that comes up. But I think you're right. I think if you look at where Shaun was last year or even over the last couple of seasons to this year, he has to be up there for the most improved because you go from a guy who was borderline retiring to a Dally M favourite.
It's an unbelievable story.
It is. It's probably not... I know it is appreciated by a lot of people, but sometimes undervalued a little bit about how remarkable the turnaround's been. You know?
So the most improved person is really the one with potential when you look at it. But also, you've got to. This is like the argument around Coach of the Year.
Yeah, correct. You
actually got to look at it and what the actual content of that statement means. Now, the most you can say Rocco Berry, you can say Jackson Forward, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, if you were to put it down as Shaun Johnson inside that mix, he wins it hands down.
Yeah.
He's Dally M favourite. What
about your biggest surprise in 2023?
Biggest surprise for me would have to go to the hooker, and I know you love this one, and Wade Egan.
Okay.
Yep. And again, Wade Egan, I think for the whole year, and the way that people, the accolades that you want always from the players, but when Macca spoke to us on Saturday night about Wade Egan, and I was just, that's a peer talking to a peer. I just went, actually, you've got some really good footballers talking about Wade Egan playing and the way that he's actually stepped up this year. I didn't think he had the best game on Saturday night. I think he was exposed defensively, but for the year, he was probably, I'd say, right up there for that award. I'm
going to say Jackson Ford, that one for me, biggest surprise. I think when you think about the guys that came in, Marata was good for the Eels. Just obviously they didn't want to keep him. Chancellor Klukstar coming in from the Raiders, couldn't play first grade, but we knew he had quality in him. Dylan Walker as well. We know he's been to a grand final with Manly, but Jackson Ford was a nobody, Kempy. This guy had barely played first grade and didn't have a lot of reps on him, and he turned out to be one of the best of the year.
The good thing about the awards is really hard to pick them because they all played so well.
Correct, yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Last one before we get to the MVP, the most exciting potential, and I guess that probably does go to a youngster, and maybe even a rookie. But who did you see in 2023?
Ali Lautea for sure. Yep. You know what I mean? I thought he would have played a bit more first grade, but the way that he came in and just handled seamlessly. Someone said to me, how hard is it defending the centres? And one of the hardest spots on the football field.
It is, yeah.
He came in up against a 300 gamer and actually played better than him.
Yeah.
And I was like, Boy, this is a kid.
Massive occasion in Canberra. It's everything was against him, and the man took it with a plum. I sort of would have liked to see him get some more games towards the back end, but I know Webster wanted to stick with the continuity. Okay, Kempy, your MVP of 2023, your best player.
My MVP goes to the captain. I just think that the way that Tohu Harris has come out of the off-season and led the side under duress because he played a massive part of the season injured, and just gave a captain's knock. And I've said this all along. I know they're talking about Carrigan. I think Paddy Carrigan is going to be arguably, in some stage, a Golden Boot winner. I think that Isaiah Yao is a very, very good player, and they've got to shut him down this Sunday. It's going to be a great battle between those two. But I think Tohu Harris as a number 13 has outplayed both of them for consistency over the year. And I think for the Warriors, he's been their best player.
All right, so Tohu Harris is our player of the year for 2023. Brad's text in saying moment of the year for him was the chant after the Knights game. Favourite game was beating the Raiders in Canberra. His forward of the year is between Whenua Blake, Wade Egan. His back's Nickel Klukstar, MVP Johnson, most improved forward. Then the rookie was Tainto Opiki and Luke Metcalf. And the lookout for in 2024 is Rocco Berry. Dave says, afternoon men, stories from Brizzy were bloody hilarious. Best moment of the season was the crowd chanting Warriors at the end of the Newcastle win. Very moving. That was an awesome moment. Sad the Wars aren't in the final. However, the best two teams are there. Great show all year. I've learnt lots, made some coin, and thoroughly enjoyed your expertise. The Daily M for best league show goes to Running It Straight, Kempy and Sammy. That's from Dave on Waiheke Island. Very, very kind from you, Dave. And look, if we are educating you like you said, then I think we're doing our job. DC says, boys, Webby has had a great year, but no cigar. Most improved. How the hell could Sean Johnson get the Dally M? He has the worst kicking game in the NRL. Adam Reynolds gave him an absolute lesson on Saturday. Bowden Barrett might be a better kicking option for the Warriors. I think that comes from a Broncos fan, Kempy.
Yeah, look, I don't know what he's watching. I've got to say, Sean Johnson's kicking game. I know. Look, we needed every player against Brisbane to play better than they played against Newcastle. That didn't happen. All right, and that happens, but Sean Johnson's kicking game actually, on a number of occasions this year, got them back into the game and got them the win.
Yep.
All right. So his kicking game was right up there in the top three. I just can't give that MVP to Sean because it's easy to give it to Sean Johnson. But if you didn't have the leadership and the middle play like player like Tohu Harris playing, he wouldn't be in this conversation. And on Webby being the most improved coach, 100%. And that's the award he should get.
Yep, I agree. Before we take a break, we're going to come back and talk Dally M's and then the grand final. Just quickly, a lot of people talking on the YouTube about how we shore up the team for 2024. If there are any areas that Andrew Webster really does need to work on, and maybe it means bringing in an extra player or two, what's the area of the park that you think maybe we are just a man light or we're a bit of talent light?
Look, I don't think it's a man. I just think it's an area that we've got to be really conscious of, which is the ageing roster. Sean is coming to the end of his career. Tohu's the same. We're getting Roger Tuivasa-Sheck could be 31 come 2024. So we're getting an ageing roster, which means that you've got to look out for injuries. Preparation has to be perfect. You've got to manage that. So we're one injury away from a bit of a turn in performance. So if we're looking for an area, it's about, well, where does the next halfback 7 come from? Where does the next 13 come from? Where does our leadership go to if that starts to happen with our side? Because you look at the Leitals and those kids that are coming through, but they're not in those key positions.
Yep.
And I think that's a real concern for me when you're looking at not 24, but possibly 25, 26.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think Warriors fans are in for maybe a lean run after next year, Kempy. Like, we've got this window now. We've got to enjoy it because following 2024, like you mentioned, we're going to have to rebuild a little bit, and that might take a few years. We'll take a break. When we come back, let's go through the Dally M Awards to be held this evening. It's a late one for Kiwi fans. I think it's about 10:30 New Zealand time that it's all going to get underway. So we'll run through those quickly, and we'll also have a little look at the grand final on Sunday. Stay with us. Welcome back into Running It Straight. We're just going to quickly run our eyes over the Dally M's, which will be held tonight in Sydney, and then we'll talk the NRL Grand Final before 3 as well. So let's go straight to the fullbacks. Kempy, we've got James Tedesco, Dylan Edwards, Kalen Ponga.
Reece Walsh.
Suspended.
Yeah, I can't believe that he's not in there, but I'm going to go Kalen Ponga.
That's fair given what he did for the Knights at the back end. The wingers, and we picked 2 of these. There's DWZ, Asako, To'o Young, Cobbo and Mulatalo. That's a great list of wingers.
Yeah, To'o DWZ.
No Jermaine Asako, despite being the points in try scoring leader.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Centre of the year, you get 2 of these as well. Crichton, Best, Staggs, Graham, Farnworth and Targo.
Oh, I'm going to go Crichton and Best.
Interesting. It also, to me, reinforces the idea that to win a competition, you have to have 2 of the best centres. You've got both the Panthers and the Broncos, 2 centres pairing in the centre of the year. 5'8", Ezra Mam, Cameron Munster, Cody Walker.
Ooh, that's a toughie.
Well, Cody Walker would have been a shoo-in until about halfway through the season.
Yeah, and Cam Munster played all that way through Origin. I'll go Cam Munster.
Yeah, he generally picks up that one. Halfback of the year, Cleary, DCE, Sean Johnson.
Sean Johnson.
Hooker of the year, Egan Coruscant Grant.
Egan.
I think it's Egan as a Warriors fan.
I know that Coruscant's a favourite, but how?
Well, he missed a bunch of games as well, Uppy Coruscant, so you'd think Wade Egan. I guess the only problem is he probably lost points to Adam and Sean. Prop of the year, there's two winners here. Lindsay Collins, who apparently by a lot of people has been touted as being a potential winner of this award. Lindsay Collins, Payne Haas, Fisher Harris, Asafa Solomona, Trebojevic and Fanua Blake.
Fanua Blake and Payne Haas.
It should be. It absolutely should be. Second rower, Liam Martin, Britta Nikora, Tyson Frizzell, Homola Olokoatu, David Fafita and Hudson Young.
Oh,
that's quite a hard one, actually.
I'm going to go Liam Martin.
Yes, and who? Fafita? Got to give it to Fafita, surely.
Well, he's had a big year. Yeah, we'll give it to Fafita.
Lock of the year, Harris, Yope, Carrigan.
Harris.
And coach of the year?
Ivan Cleary.
Why?
Because he's on a three-peat, been in the grand final 4 years in a row.
But this is the thing. It's coach of the year, not coach of what you've done the last 4 years.
Okay, then. So coach of the year. Won the minor premiership.
Yeah, so I said to Steph today.
And he's probably going to win the grand final.
But I said this to Steph today. Should they just give coach of the year to the person who wins the minor premiership? Because theoretically, you're the best coach. You've coached the team to the minor premiership.
That's exactly right. Because you can play pedantics with it. But I think it's more than that. He is the best coach in the competition.
I think he is. I do think he is. Captain of the year, Adam Reynolds, Tohu Harris, Isaiah Yeo.
Tohu Harris, hands down.
Yeah, I think Adam Reynolds will challenge for that. No,
Kempy. Look, if they don't give it to Tohu Harris, they got rocks in the head for what he's done from taking the Warriors from where they were after the last 2 years to where they got to this year. It's a massive leadership effort.
Final one, rookie of the year, Dream Buller.
Buller. Don't even talk about anyone else.
William Warbrick, Sanua Taruva.
Yep. I'll tell you now, Buller is going to be a star of the future.
Oh, he will absolutely. Okay, those are the Dally M's. They're on tonight. I think 10:30 is when the award ceremony kicks off on Sky, so you can watch that there. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit of the grand final heading up towards 3 o'clock. All right, let's talk some grand final football. Sunday evening over in Sydney, it is the Brisbane Broncos and the Penrith Panthers, the two best teams in the regular season. Kempy, the big question, of course, for Penrith is how do you stop Reece Walsh?
Oh, you got to win it in the middle of the ruck. That's the battle. The battle against Payne, Haas, Carrigan, up against Fisher Harris, Liotta, and of course you've got Isaiah Yell running around there. They need to do a number on Yell, does Brisbane, to make sure that he can get over that advantage line. But on Penrith's side, they've got to stop the likes of Carrigan, past Fledger, just rolling through the middle of the ruck and getting on that front foot. Because he's a totally different player when he's going forward. You know what I mean? And they've got to stay up on the offload because they're going to try and offload. They're going to try and risk the play to get out the back and get it to Reece Walsh. And the other thing too is on that, I noticed that on the right defensive edge, that Reece Walsh that's his best side to go to. And he goes across players really quickly.
Yep.
The wingers and the centres can't panic. Mm-hmm. They've got to work really hard from the inside out and they've got to get across to him. So you look at your closing your defensive line from left to right.
And what do you think the Panthers will do that the Warriors didn't do to make things a little bit harder for the Broncos? They'll strangle them.
Yeah. So the error count was pretty high in that game. If you're looking at the stats throughout the Brisbane game, and we mirrored them. We kept handing the ball back. You remember that scrum period through the middle of the game? It just kept getting knocked on by both teams.
Yeah.
Penrith ain't doing that.
No. Okay.
So you throw those offloads at the back. Penrith are in the middle. They get knocked down. Yep, that's one thing. You create those errors, those little forward passes, those drop balls and stuff like that. Penrith ain't giving it back.
The thing as well, Kempy, is a battle of two styles on Sunday. Obviously, Penrith being very, very defensively minded, and the Broncos just being all-out attack. Who wins that, do you think?
Well, what I saw on Saturday night up in Brisbane, I think they're a chance. I think they have to chance their arm.
I think they're the best chance of anyone, 100%. Obviously.
And what I really liked about it was Adam Reynolds' game management. So Adam Reynolds, he managed the tempo of the game really well. So when he saw the opportunity and knew that the ruck was beat, he lifted the tempo of the game and he got them on the front foot. And that's why I said they changed their gear and went up another gear to sixth gear. And he kept them there for quite a while. And they got those points, but they should have got a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think that if they can do that, I think Adam Reynolds could actually strangle them.
So write me the little script, Kempy, for the grand final. How does it play out? Who wins? Your Clive Churchill, all of that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it to Brisbane. I think Brisbane get it. I know everyone's picking Penrith, but I think Brisbane get it. I think they get it on the back of Reece Walsh's game. I think Reece Walsh gets the Clive Churchill. I think if they're going to score some points, they're going to go through the middle of the ruck. I think Payne, Haas and Paddy Carrigan, I think they're big game players. You know, Fledger, I think Fledger's a big game player. The biggest surprise for me was Jordan Riki out there on that right edge. Mate, I'm glad he's a Kiwi.
What's your scoreline then?
I think it's 16-8 to Brisbane.
16-8. And any-time try scorer for the punters?
Any-time try scorer, I'm going to go, here's the bet for you. Brian To'o, first try scorer. And I'm going to go Nathan Cleary, any try scorer, because the TAB's already put it up. It's $34.
Wow, that's not bad at all. There's lots of good power plays as well for the grand final.
2 tries, that's their 8 points.
So have a look at that. That's us for another week. We'll have our final Running It Straight next Wednesday where we wrap the grand final and the 2023 season. We'll try and get a couple of guests on as well for you. But for the Warriors, that is it for 2023. And we will be back with them in 2024. Up the Waz.